So, Asimov patch notes have been delivered, and you can try out the beta right now. All you got to do is click Stellaris, hit Properties, and then go to the Betas tab, select 1.2.0 _beta, and then you will download the update, and your version should now be 1.2. Now, of course, this is not the final version of the actual patch, so what you will get is not final yet. They still may be able to do a couple of tweaking on that, but overall, this would be a good indicator of what you're gonna get. Now, Wiz has decided to put down some of the biggest things, and overall, there's quite a lot of these, so I'm gonna try to keep it a little bit shorter than usual, and then go over a couple things here that are interesting for, our purposes in terms of content. So, added defensive pact diplomatic action that allows you to form a defensive alliance with another empire. Basically, what this means is you can get a defensive alliance. If somebody attacks them, they will pull you into a war. Basically, it's a deterrent for other empires to go to war with you or your ally in that particular case. It's a defensive alliance. If you go to war with somebody, you will not pull them in. So, yeah, defensive alliance. It's pretty standard stuff. Non-aggression pact, migration treaty, support independence, and guaranteed independence are now diplomatic actions instead of trade deals. So, these are now diplomatic actions. What that actually means, we'll have a look at, but overall, it just changes it from... basically, the problem was that it was under trade deals, and it wasn't particularly clear where they were, but now they've been migrated to diplomatic actions rather than trade deals. So non-aggression pact, migration treaty, support independence, and guarantee independence are now more easily accessible because nobody apparently wouldn't be able to find them before. Removed embassies to be replaced with trust. Trust builds over time by having active diplomatic treaties, which were covered just now, such as non-aggression pact or alliance, and increases opinion up to 100. So basically it replaces embassies and all of that. So fairly standard stuff here. Embassies didn't make all that much sense to begin with, so those are now gone. So instead we have trust, which is fine. Federations now vote on wars and new members. So if you have a federation, if you want to go to war, you got to vote for it, and the same goes for new members. I could have sworn that was already in the game, but could be wrong. Federation members now give 20% of their Navy capacity to the Federation, which makes up a Federation naval capacity, which basically means that there will be a Federation Navy, which is covered by naval capacity. It's relatively simple. Federation fleets no longer cost maintenance, so you get them for free because they're part of the Federation, but cannot exceed the Federation Navy capacity inside. So you basically get a fleet for free if you're the boss. You can now kick an alliance and Federation members with a majority vote action. So if those filthy xenophiles try to get into your Federation, all you got to do is make them look bad, look good to your Federation co-partners, and then get them booted. That's fine. And I hope the AI actually does something like that as well. Sending out a favorable trade deal, such as a gift, now increases the opinion of an empire up to 100%. This is huge. Favorable trade deals right now don't really do all that much, but the increase on modifier up to 100% is great. That's really useful in terms of making your neighbors happy. You can now set war philosophy policy. This policy determines what type of war goals you can use. So that goes into the policy area. Remove war economy policy. Apparently nobody knew what it actually did or how it worked. Colonizing planets and building frontier outposts now costs influence based on the distance to your closest own system. So basically, if you have a colony or frontier outpost that is in the middle of nowhere and not actually connected to your border area, they will cost more influence based on the distance to your closest own system, which kind of makes island areas less useful to your expansion plans. So when you're trying to expand into a particular area, and when certain planets are not available to you and you want to expand to those areas that do have them, you are now punished with more influence. I'm not entirely sure if this is a good idea, but we'll see how this all works out once the patch goes live and what the general consensus on this particular subject will be. Borders are now open to everyone by default, but can be closed through diplomatic actions. Empires will close borders to rivals by default, and fallen empires will never open borders. This is great. This means that we can survey inside of other empires, which is exceptionally useful. Now we can finally finish up those difficult-to-get missions that get completely bogged down because you just can't get into other empire's territory, which is great. Happiness is now a linear modifier with levels above 50% giving bonus and levels below 50% giving penalty. So the happier population, the better the bonus are at a linear level. So let's say you get 60, you get +2, you get 80, you get +4, you get +90, etc. If that is the actual number is a bit of a different question, but yeah, of course, that's how that works. All ship weapons have doubled their range, which is nice, and this, for me, is the big one. Added diplomatic, opinion, and AI attitude map modes. Map modes are the main course of Paradox Development Studio games, and they give you so much additional information. I was really, really surprised when I found out that they are actually not in this game, because they're such a staple of the grand strategy game. Of course, this is more of a hybrid between 4X and grand strategy, but still, once you start working with scales of hundreds of systems, you kind of need information like that, and having the additional map modes are there is so useful. And map modes can be easily moddable, so I'm looking forward to see the Steam Workshop being filled with map modes that are actually useful, and some of them may actually be useless, so we have a feature on that. General ship designs with excess power gain will gain a small bonus, speed, and evasion. So right now, if you have a ship that has excess power, you will get a small bonus to damage, speed, and evasion, which is nice, because before that power would just be lost, and you would be, you'd be spending money on things that you weren't using. So that is nice. So it's a nice stopgap right there. Grand Admiral achievement requires you a combined fleet of 100,000 instead of having 100,000 damage in ship combat. Good, I can get that achievement. It's quite easy. Alliance and Federations can now vote to kick a member, which is nice. To be successful, 50% of members +1. So majority vote, need to vote yes. So 3 members in an alliance of 4. That works perfectly fine. Ship combat computers behavior have changed. They are now changed from aggressive to and defensive to swarm and bombardment. We already talked about this in the previous video about the patch, so that's pretty clear. Added visitor center building and associated technology that is available to Xenophile empires, so they're a little bit better. Added symbol of unity building and associated technology, which is available to Spiritualist empire. I hope that these all improve happiness across the empire itself. Fleet merging has now been improved and should be prioritized certain fleets better. Don't know exactly what that is going to do. Spaceports can be dismantled, which is nice because they were costing so much money before, and being able to dismantle them is good. Natural beauty planet modifier effect on habitability removed. Interesting. Instead, the modifier now affects planet migration attraction +25. So basically, the planet looks pretty, so everybody wants to live there, but the habitability of it is awful. Therefore, the happiness goes down. So it's like somebody said on Reddit, it's basically California. Taking a tributary now makes you guarantee their independence for 10 years. The most important part of this part is that you will be able to get a tributary. Migration time has changed into migration speed. Let's take a look at that. Base ethics divergence has been changed, and capital buildings have been adjusted accordingly. There is no longer possible to avoid ethics divergence by not working the reassembled ship shelter. That's nice. Added regulated slave policy option, which is nice because you get regulated slaves. So instead of the slaves being happy, they are regulated, I guess. I'm not entirely sure how this would work in real life, but sure. Civilian ships designs are updated with shields and armor technologies. They weren't before, apparently, so you would just get warp and stuff like that. I'm actually, right now, I don't even think you can get weapons on civilian ships. We'll take a look at that. Frontier outposts are destroyed if the last owned planet in a system changes owners through war. Nice. So no more outposts that are just sitting around doing nothing in your territory, which is good. Strike craft attack and movement pattern was charged to be more swarm-like, so they'll be going straight to the face. Strike craft ship account increased from 4 to 8, and damage has been rescaled accordingly, so double the damage for strike craft. Galactic Ambitions technology no longer provides survey data for empires you have contacted. Interesting. Oh, that's actually really good. So the Galactic Ambitions technology before would give you survey data, which is super annoying because it just means you don't survey those planets, which means you don't get events, and exploration is pretty much the whole goal of Stellaris. So Galactic Ambitions technology are no longer approving the Survey data is great. It's so good. It allows you to just do more stuff over a long period of time, and it should make the mid game a little bit more interesting. It will probably give you stress injuries to your hands and your wrist, most specifically because of all the clicking you're going to need to do here. New war goals. Make tributary. You can now take tributaries in war. Tributaries are a type of subject that pays 20% of their energy credits and mineral income to their overlord, but do not join their wars, and are free to declare their own wars and colonize planets. That's nice. So they're kind of like a vassal, but they won't go to war, and they will give you money. So that's good. It's kind of like a sector that colonizes, does its own war, and gives you a fraction of the money that a sector would give. So you're probably better off taking those worlds and integrating them and then turning them into a sector, so you get 75% of their income, which is a little bit more practical in the early game when you are not actually getting all that many resources. Abandoned planet. If your policies now allow purging, you can force an enemy to abandon a planet, killing all pops on that planet in process. That's nice. That's pretty much what the Fallen Empires would do if you would take one of their holy worlds. So, yeah, that's good. Humiliate. You can humiliate an enemy empire, making it suffer a negative modifier for a time and giving them a chunk of influence. Nice. Open borders. Forces other empire to open borders to you for 10 years. No idea why you want to do that. Stop atrocity. Forces another empire to ban slavery and purging. So for all you good choose out there, you can go and do that. Space nomads are here. They were already in the game, but they've now been reworked and expanded for the mid-game. You would encounter them very, very rarely. I think I've only encountered them maybe twice in about 24 playthroughs, and they didn't do all that much aside from giving you survey data, but now they will giving you other stuff and actually trigger some events as well, which is nice. So they will just go from one area of the galaxy to the other and trigger events, which is kind of cool. So it gives you another thing to interact with during the mid-game. Again, the mid-game is very, very much needs some additional content, because right now it's exceptionally boring and there's just not much to do at the moment. New diplomatic incidents. Certain actions and circumstances now causes diplomatic incidents between empires in the mid-game, and that's nice and vague. Considering the Death Diary from the other day, I'm going to go ahead and say that is stuff like science ships that are survey worlds and people thinking they're spies, etc. But it should increase the coolness of the diplomatic game a little bit more during the mid-game, because in all honesty right now it's just war and expanding, and war should be the last resort, really. Diplomatic stuff should be far more fun, and interaction with other aliens should be pretty solid as well. Factions, slave factions to be specific. Removed the old slave faction, that's good. Added the docile slave faction, which makes up relatively content slaves. Don't know whether or not that is first, second, or third generation slaves if they are allowed to breed. Docile slave faction has fairly mild support effects. Docile slave faction demands regulated slave policy. Hey, if you're slaves, you may as well have it regulated, right? It's like the European Union. Added the malcontent slave faction made up of unhappy slaves. Malcontent slave factions have fairly harsh support effects, including empire-wide rebellion. That's cool. Empire-wide, like having a civil war would be so much fun. Having something happen there is just great. Malcontent slaves demand freedom for all slaves, so basically full emancipation. And on top of that, there's an emancipation faction for non-slave pups, which I believe already exists in the game. I could have sworn I saw them before. Emancipation faction strengthens the malcontent slaves, which is not that great. Pop ethos influences which faction Pop joins when enslaved, and decision sticks for them for a time. Enslaved Pops move between the two factions, with dissatisfied slaves gravitating towards the malcontent slaves. That's nice. Cool. Balance. General base happiness has been reduced from 60 to 50, so it's going to be more difficult to keep your population happy. Habitability of planet classes 2 steps removed from your species primary type increased from 20 to 40%, which so basically if you are, say, continental and you go from arid to desert, you will still get a 40% happiness bonus there, so that's good. Or habitability, let's put it that way. Reduced chance of post-combat admiral events by a factor of 5, thankfully, because we were getting tons and tons of useless admirals because of promising officer events. Leaders will no longer gain any additional traits from leveling up if they already have 3 or more. Yes, I've seen admirals with like 5 or 6 additional traits, which was just annoying. I'm not really sure if this is a good idea or not. That's something that really worked in Crusader Kings 2. It was really nice to be able to just build up your characters and make them better over time, and then they died off and you have to start from scratch. I kind of like that, so I'm not entirely sure if that is a good decision, but we'll see. Newly spawned pups are more likely to take their ethics from pups from the same species. That is nice. The ruler savior modifier during the Ransomeers event has been reduced from 100 years to 5 years. I have never had this event. Curious what that does. The grand design modifier from the Void Unclouded event is no longer permanent and gives you plus 10 happiness for 20 years. That is Void Cloud. If you do all the events there, you would have gotten a happiness bonus forever. That is now gone. Propaganda Edict can now be used by everyone. Fnatic collectivists were previously prevented from using it, which is probably why I never used it. Mineral deficit effect increased from 33% to minus 33% to minus 50%, and also affects research speed. That's great. If you have deficiency in things, and then it should be. It should impact things more. You should have to run your economy more efficiently, basically. Migration treaties no longer affect pop happiness. Yes, my Tyraf will be very happy with that because they're xenophobes and they weren't particularly happy with the migration treaty, to say the least. Ethics. In general, Fnatic versions are now 3 times as stronger as their non-Fnatic ethics. Previously, I think it was twice. So Fnatic Individualists, these are all pretty awful to read through. There's quite a lot of them. Fnatic Xenophile get diplomatic influence costs reduced, rivalry influence gained by 75%, militarist faction, ship damage, trust growth, that's all politics stuff, pacifist stuff, trust growth, max rivalries for pacifists has been reduced by 1, which makes sense because they're pacifists, obviously. Ethics divergence reduced by 10%. That's great. Growth requirement reduced by minus 5 for spiritualists. That's really good as well. So if you're spiritualist, you can grow your population a lot quicker. So it makes more sense to go for the slow breeders trait and then genetically engineer those ones out later on. Fnatic militarists. Fnatic materialist physics, society, and engineering output increased to 15%. That is huge. That's a 33% bonus on what you were already getting. So when you start scaling your science technology and your science output, that additional 33% is going to make such huge bonus. Obviously, it's percentage, so it's not really 33%, but math, so it's like point what? Math, basically. So, yeah. Modifiers. Youthful Elite modifier effect on leader lifespan reduces from 25 to 10, so Youthful Elite is no longer as powerful. Youthful People modifier effect on happiness reduced is to 3%. Natural Beauty modifier effect on happiness reduced plus 15 to 5. So your natural beauty is no longer really a thing when it comes to happiness. Like the plus 15 was used to be really good. Like having a natural beauty there on a planet, say it's like size 25, and you remove all the blockers, that is like your go-to production world right there. But that's no longer the case. So components increase the engagement range of Strikecraft from 80 to 120. I thought it was doubled earlier on. No, that's actually the amount of damage they do because of the amount of units. Strikecraft rebuild speed improved from 1 per month to 4 per month, so you can easily rebuild them. All laser weapons had their armor penetration reduced from 50% to 33%. That is huge for laser combat. It used to be 50%. You used to be able to cut through the enemy like a knife through butter, and now it's only a third of their armor instead of 50%. Plasma weapons had their armor penetration reduced from 100 to 75. That's negligible. Most projectile weapons now deal plus 15 damage per shield versus shields. That's great. So projectile weapons will do more damage versus shields, which is kind of good. Then there's a whole bunch of stuff about accuracy. That is not really interesting. Particle lance has been reduced. Tachyon as well. That's pretty much all covered. Resources. This one right here. I don't know why. I'm not sure why this has been done. Okay, let's put it this way. Double the rate of Gargantian ore, Lethuric gas, Engos vapor, Taldar crystals, Petherian dust, Aurelium ore, and Satramine gas. So double the spawn rate, so it will show up twice as much. they're rare resources. I am like the strategic resources, obviously, but the rate they were spawning, sure. Were they lacking? Yes. Rather than increasing their spawn rate, increasing the power that they have, make them a strategic goal, make them something that you want to have, rather than, you know, instead of one person wins, everybody wins. Everybody gets a medal. I'm not sure if this is a good idea, but once again, we'll see in practice if this is the case. I personally would have boosted their effects and put a modifier in the politics area saying, hey, you guys got a rare resource, we want it. Therefore, you get a malice attached to it. I'm not a game designer. I never claimed that I would be, but it would make more sense to me, and it would just create more conflict and make the game more interesting. Just giving everybody more stuff, I don't think is a good idea. So, End of Game Crisis. Endgame Crisis fleets are now significantly tougher. Good. They were weak as hell. Endgame Crisis now occur later on average, with the earliest appearance of the Praetorian Scourge and Unbidden being delayed by at least 50 years compared 1 to 1.1. So the Scourge have a timer that starts at the game, and that timer will stop in case the Unbidden or the AI spawn. But now they will basically spawn 50 years later. So basically you will get a little bit more advanced technology. So originally, I think the Praetorian Scourge could already spawn at like 150 years into the game if you were really unlucky. But now it's at least 200 years. Extra-dimensional invaders will now reinforce more aggressively, thankfully. Interdimensional invaders portals will now have its hull base tripled. That's good, because before it's like, hey, throw some rocks at this thing, and that's pretty much it. Governments. Democratic governments will have their election terms increased to 10 years. Good, because I really hated the amount of voting that you needed to do. Military Republic. Ship upkeep effect removed. Ooh. Okay, anything else here that's interested? National democracy, theocracy. There's no new subconscious consensus. Core systems effect. It looks like the subconscious consensus no longer has their +5 bonus to core systems. So that means that the amount of systems that you can have by using subconscious consensus is basically 5. You won't be able to get more, which is annoying because right now, the sector AI can be really dumb sometimes, and you can't really micromanage them. And having the additional core systems, I think it was +4, not entirely sure, but you could get it to +9 in that case. Not really happy with that unless the AI has been improved as well. Allied monarchy, Irenic monarchy, blah de blah, index of democracy. Mining station build cost, plutocratic oligarchy, mining cost. But by the time you get to the plutocratic oligarchy, is that a stat? That's one of the basic ones. And the mining station ones for the mega corporations been reduced by 50%. By the time you get mega corporations, you'll be swimming in minerals. This becomes completely useless. Not sure why. Star Empire, slave tolerance effect removed. New building construction reduced by 30%. That's great. That's really great. No leaders, no factions, no technology. Units. Colony ship mineral cost now depends on the components and is no longer static. Oh, that's nice. Private colony ship. In case you didn't know, there's a rare technology which allows you to construct a private colony ship. Costs 50% of the colony ship, but in energy credits. That is cool. The thing with the private colony ship is that it basically puts whatever pops in there because it's private, and they can basically completely change your sector mechanics because the ethics of these people can be completely different. Okay, war, AI. AI emperors will now start outlawing AI robotics in certain crises. I wonder which crisis that is. AI empires no longer pick dialogue-only events, blah de blah. AI will now start building Federation fleets. Sector, here we go. Sector will now build, appropriately handle special buildings, such as happiness buildings. That's great. Sector AI will now abort spaceport constructions if hostiles are nearby. Okay. All sectors will now build military stations. All of them. Then why would we have the militarized sectors? Because that was their major thing. Maybe with armies or stuff like that, but yeah. Maybe the new military sectors would just build more powerful stuff and just do them everywhere, but all sectors will now build military stations. Kind of makes one sector type completely redundant. Fixed a bug which caused the sector AI to do sometimes not build buildings. A bug where a player would give resources to sectors and the sectors would store resources over cap. I've never seen that, and those are all bugs. Diplomacy, AI allies will now be upset if you vote down their proposal and may leave the alliance or attempt to kick you. That's great. Some stuff can be messed up there, so that sounds like fun. End of game crises. Crisis empires are more aggressive, and computer-controlled empires respond more aggressively to the Praetorian Scourge. I hope the Praetorian Scourge has been fixed. They were broken before, so that is not... hopefully that is better. There's a couple of things here. Attacking, general portrait and planets now offset, blah blah. Power in a ship design shown as a green. There's a couple of other stuff here. User modding, so if you're a modder, there's a bunch of stuff here that is interesting for you. Some added some triggers for modding and events. Okay, that is cool. Performance. Fix a stall that could happen with large sectors. Performance overall. Minor improvements to AI calculation. So the game should actually be running better. And then there's a slew of bug fixes. And then finally, we get to the graphics. The galaxy background used in solar systems are now changed depending on the type of star and star position in the galaxy. Aura effects will be slightly smaller. Thank God. They were huge before. And fixed an issue where a gun would float next to the arthropod hope breaker. That's such a specific bug there as well. So, like how, like specifically this type, that one, and that one. Fair enough. Fix an issue where mammalian portrait would have black squares as eyes. I would have loved to use that. Fix an issue where an avian portrait doesn't have eyes. And that wraps up the patch notes for Asimov 1.2. I hope you enjoyed it. If there's anything in here that you would like to discuss, feel free to drop it into the comments. We're always open for discussion about the patch notes. What do you like? What do you not like? What do you think is stupid? What do you think is great? Let us know, and we'll have a discussion about it in the comments. But in the meantime, this will be it for now. And until next time, take good care of yourselves and each other.